Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Leadership Development from Florida School Board Association, and we will be focusing on working on policy making, and we have Carol Cook today, and thank you, Carol Cook, for being here today, and I'll hand it over to you. Morning, board members and superintendent.
Morning.
Morning. Good morning. Thank you, and I am glad to be here. I just want to make sure that the PowerPoint is going to be on the screen, and it's not working from here. There we go. All right. Okay. So we are going to be talking about policy, and from what I understand, we're going to have 3 board members that are joining us via Teams today. So we're just going to try and make this work. It's always better when we're face to face and we can kind of interact together, but we'll figure out how we're going to make it work. And we're going to move the microphone. All righty. Okay, so we are going to be talking about policy today, but why is policy so important? Where do I have to point this in order to make it move? Where do I point this in order to make the slides move forward? It's not going. It's on. Okay, now, all right. Yep, that's what I was hitting. You just have the magic touch. All right. So there is research that shows, and we talk about the Lighthouse research that was done by the Iowa School Board Association. We talk about that frequently, about the relationship between a strong, viable board and student achievement. Well, there's also been another one. After 15 years of research, they found that it can be stated with confidence that the behavior of the school board is directly related to student achievement. So it is very important for us to know what our job is, to learn as much as we can, and move forward with it in a way that is cohesive, collaborative, and builds on all of our strengths, because your students deserve the best you can give them. So today we're going to talk about policy. What is policy, and the definition of that in governance, and then kind of the difference between policy and procedures. Sometimes they get intertwined or mixed together and create some, and then we're going to go through the policy cycle. What is policy development, and what is that 7-step cycle? And then also some questions maybe about the adoption of policies, but you have an attorney that will help you through that on a regular basis, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the 28 days that are needed between the first and second readings and those types of things. So we'll just have some questions that are asked. So what is board policy? If I asked you that question, what would you say? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Member Gray?
Yes. Member Gray?
So, I mean, we're not involved with the actual procedures, as we all know, but it's basically setting almost like a philosophical, not totally vague, but a way of work that is best for all children. And it does inflect a guideline, a map of where certain rules and regulations should be aimed at, and then our superintendent gets to put the procedures in place to make it happen.
All righty. So basically the policies are, what are the expectations as far as how people are to interact with each other? What do we need to do in order to make this a strong district? Your policies are the biggest part of what you do. Policies and budget. That's a big part of your governance, and you govern through policy. So when we start talking about what is your attendance policy, okay, you're actually laying out what the expectations are for attendance for students. And when we talked about governance versus management, then as Member Gray said, the superintendent then puts things in place to make sure that those policies are taken care of. The way you hire people, what are the policies? Your job descriptions are part of that. So it really is kind of the laws of the school district. Policies provide that bridge between the philosophy, the philosophical beliefs of each one of you put together to then build that bridge to go to how the programs are going to be put in place and how the everyday working of the district is going to happen. Policies are not neutral. Some people just say, you know, they're just out there and they're there to follow, but they're not neutral. They are either going to exacerbate a situation They're either going to mitigate a situation, they're going to perpetuate it, or they're going to eliminate it. Okay? So, what would we want to perpetuate? In policy, what kinds of things would we want to perpetuate?
Member Gray?
Well, it is. Thank you, Carol, for the question. There are many new things that are coming up as far as the state legislative. That makes us all pause and look at policies as whether we should, by statute, by Florida statute, have to tweak them. So, for an example, I would like to see with the charter schools, I'll just put that out there, that there is an absolute ratio of a diversity ratio that is in place for the Hispanic, for the ELL learner, the gifted. They already have it listed, but I believe there should be, as we are encumbered, to have a ratio. So, and then when we get into your point, should it be, an exact number in a policy? No, but it should give the guidance to initiate a ratio, and that's the reason why this workshop is going on, is how finite should our policies be? And so that's a question, because I'm making a scenario and I would like to do that, but I don't know the answer.
Okay. All right. And we will do that then. We will talk a little bit farther into this discussion as to how finite your policy should be. But if we're looking at what we should perpetuate, we want to perpetuate, for example, the high standards that you would have. And so what kinds of things do you put in place? The attendance policy that I just made, that's something you want to perpetuate. You want to make sure that students are going to be here on a regular basis. You're going to want to make sure the finances are handled properly. So the policies that you would write and look at would be to make sure that continues. What would you want to eliminate? You want to eliminate any unsafe behaviors, whether it's in law or whether it's in your policies. So your policies then would eliminate, for example, weapons on campus. So you would have policies to address that. So there are purposes for policies in each one of those areas. What do you want to exacerbate? What do you want to continue? What do you want to emphasize? Those are going to be your policies. So policies, by saying they're not neutral, that means they are important. They're not just something that's out there. You can't have a policy that isn't going to say something one way or the other. If it's a vague policy, it might be viewed as neutral. It's unnecessary if it's going to be vague. Policies are supposed to be very prescriptive as to the big expectation. They communicate your goals, the operations of the district, and parents and staff and community should all know what those policies are. So we even need to make sure that they're online so that they can access them, and we should become familiar with it. I mean, the law book is this big, and we have policies that go with many of those laws that are in place. Our policy manual, if we printed it up, would probably be equally as big because we cover so many different areas. And sometimes we need to just look at it and say, are all of these necessary? Or do we have policies that are in conflict with each other because we made some of them 10 years ago that are no longer pertinent, or we've done them 5 years ago and things have changed and now we have to put new in. So we need to be able to look at that so that we could provide the continuity that's necessary in the district and not be at odds with our own policy. Okay? Yes, sir.
Actually, so we should be reviewing policies each year. In other words, you think somewhere in that vicinity?
You should spend some time designated to review some policies, even if it's just sections of it. Now, that doesn't mean that board members have to sit down and look through the policies. Staff can do that. Teaching and learning can be looking at the policies that are,
Yeah, if I could jump in, Mr. McCauley has initiated that. That's one of the first things he did when Mr. Davis became superintendent. The chief of staff is looking at our overall policies because, to Carol's point, there are a lot of redundancies in the policies. They've been around for a long time, and that's one of the things that Mr. McCauley is actively doing.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then they'll bring whatever changes to the board. If they're going to be, there's a policy there is also a process to eliminate policy. And so they'll let you know which ones are taking out. They're not going to randomly take them out and not let the board know. You know, but you don't have to sit down and read every single policy and see.
And one of the things I was going to mention, having you here, because we have several new board members, I think that will help. We also have a policy making. We started working on policies, and we had several board members bring up some policies. We had a policy making so we can review and discuss that. And we have one more scheduled already, and we plan on scheduling, at least 2 or 3 this year to make sure that we have enough time for any policies that are brought up to change, modify, or add those. So we do have a list. I think we got through about a third of them when we met previously last year, and we're going to continue working on that in the coming year.
Okay.
I'm going to jump into, because of the fact that policy making and financial decisions are our main jobs, which is why I asked you to come. And to your point, Mr. Porter, and I'm happy that Mr. McCauley is ending or relinquishing some of the old policies. I do not have that information. I don't know if the other board members have that, so it hasn't been shared. Some of these policies that have been eradicated.
No, I want to be clear. No policy will be eradicated until the board takes action. He's reviewing all the policies.
Okay.
The policies are there. Only you have the power to approve or to remove policies. So he is doing a review that will eventually come to the board, but he's not on single-handedly taking anything out. That's not legal.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but that's good to know. Because,
What'll probably be happening is he'll go through and say, here are the ones that I'm going to recommend that you remove, and have an explanation for why. And there may be, it's addressed over here, but it's also addressed over here, and this one does it better in this section. So we're going to go with that. So that'll be a conversation that you'll have. And like I said, there is a process for removing the policies. So it can't be done without board action. Okay? The biggest thing that we need to remember is that policy should focus on student learning, student achievement, and creating that environment. If you have others, you may look at them and just say, some of these policies are superfluous. They don't need to be part of it because it's really not helping us focus on what we're doing for the students and how we're moving forward. Many of the things that we have in there are by law, and so those are not ones you're going to be removing. And so that would be some of the balance that we'll be looking at. Now, policy is too important for you to be doing late at night. Sometimes we have meetings, we have a lot of speakers, we have a lot of things that go on, and we have a policy that's brought to us late, or we finally get to it on the agenda and it's late. It's too important to do it late at night. So when you're even creating your agendas, look and make sure that you're going to be able to address those while y'all are still somewhat fresh. And make sure that your policies are crystal clear. Do all of you understand it the same way? Or does one person understand it, that it says this, and another board member understands that it says this? If you're questioning what it is saying, or you can't agree on what it's saying, you need to go back and rework it. Because if you have 7 people or 8 people that cannot say, yes, this is exactly what it says and this is exactly what it means, how many people in the community and how many people within the school district do you have that are going to be confused by it? So as you're looking, make sure it says what you are intending to do. Sometimes we get real fancy with language because we tend to do that in education and we want to make it sound good. Sometimes just simple words are the best. We all understand it. Okay? Now, here's where our authority comes from. Sometimes from the U.S. Constitution, we as constitutional officers, there are things by which we need to abide. And that would be in a section maybe for board members and what needs to be there. And so the Congress, the federal agencies, all of those kinds of groups, the National Department of Education may have things that come down, just like from the state, the legislature, the Department of Education in the state, all of those state agencies come down, and then board members are all responsible for policies. So we have a lot of these policies that come to us that we need to make work in our districts. And then we have ones that we would bring forward. So some of them are by our choice, some of them are because the agencies that oversee us say that we're going to do it. In the Constitution, or in the Florida law, and I'm not going to read all of this to you, and I don't expect you to read it right now either, but you do have it in front of you, that we are to determine what the policy should be. We're going to adopt those rules and go through that process and make sure that we're prescribing and adopting the standards and policies. But that is in statute, and it gives you more definition about each of those. But it's for us to determine and move forward through the process. A school board without good written policies or an understanding of what those policies are making random decisions. You'll hear us often when people will call and say, we're having a problem in our district, or we have a question in our district about something. The first thing we say is, what do your policies say? Because the policies here in Hillsborough are different than the policies I need to follow in Pinellas County. So I can't say this is how it has to happen unless it's maybe a state rule. But the first thing you do is you go to your policies. If you have random policies, you're going to have random decision making, and you're going to have random jobs being done. What we want to do is make sure that we all understand our policies, then we understand how critical they are to the operation of the district, and move them all forward. Then you can write your strategic plan that won't be in competition or conflict with your policies. You also may look at what policies need to be put in place to make sure we can move the strategic plan forward. Because you all know the strategic plan from the state, we have to tie in with that. And we'll start at the school improvement plans. They have to tie in with our district strategic plan. Our district strategic plan ties in with the state strategic plan so that it's all aligned. Our policies should also be aligned with that. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Carol, that's why it's so helpful to have the staff be involved in policy writing, because they hone in on what the statutes, the new rules, and assuredly we will have a lot of work to do because there'll be some changes coming down the pike.
Every legislative session, and education is a hot topic this year.
Yeah.
So there will be things that come down that will have to be, and we'll talk about the actual writing of policy in a little bit, but your point is well made that staff definitely needs to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Intricately involved. The people that are on teams, do they have any questions? Okay, then we'll move forward. A physician specializing in school board service would surely prescribe policy making as the penicillin to cure the ills that affect a board and its administration. So if we put it in the medical terms, the policies are going to be the things that are going to prevent you from getting sick, or they're going to fix it when you start getting off track. Okay, so you're going to look at that, and that's how you move forward. A school board armed with well-defined policies is less likely to experience board malpractice, keeping it in the medical terms. So if you have well-defined policies, it's easier for your families and your community to follow your policies. It's easier for your staff to follow policies, and it's easier for you to make sure that the policies are being followed. Again, if they're vague or they're not clear, it can create a lot of questions. Okay, so let's talk about board malpractice. How do we create or practice in such a way that we're creating our own problems sometimes? And one of it is instant policy making. You know, you see something happen somewhere, and we accuse the legislators of doing it all the time, and yet we do it too. You see a situation that happened, and now you have to make a rule to fix it. We need to ask ourselves, is this a pervasive problem, or is this a situational problem? Because if it's a situational problem, it can be fixed. If it's pervasive, now maybe you need a policy. Okay, so rather than making policy for one thing that you have seen happen or one thing you have heard that happened, let's ask ourselves, how pervasive is this? Is this something that is a district-wide issue? Is this a special cause, or is it a common cause? If we put it in Deming's words, because a common cause means it's happening throughout the system. That is something that needs to be addressed. Dictatorial policy is also a problem. It's when the school board decides unilaterally, we're going to put these things in place and we're going to make sure these people never do it, and we're going to tell them how it's going to happen. That doesn't always work. And oftentimes that's received with a lot of pushback and then not implemented properly. And so why are you writing this policy is one of the questions that you need to ask yourself. Is it going to help us move our strategic plan forward? In your strategic plan, you have safety, you have facilities, you have all different topics. Is it perpetuating your strategic plan? Or are you just trying to be rulers? Okay? Doing illegal policy is also a problem. And we'll just kind of, if you're trying to circumvent the law by a policy that you want to write, you're going to get in trouble somewhere along the way. And sloppy policy, you're not making it clear, you're not making the language very succinct. It's going to be, confusing, or it's vague. That's a sloppy policy. And so you want to make sure you're not doing that as well. So sometimes you need to ask yourselves, how would this be interpreted? You can even ask someone in your family, here's a policy, what does it say? And see if they tell you it's the same thing. And then contradictory policies, which we talked about, which is why sometimes you need to go through and review the policies, which I'm thrilled to hear that is happening here. So that's good. You're ahead of the game already. Okay. Okay.
Sometimes, I'm just knowing, sometimes you make up a policy. It may not be someone may have told you too, Carol. They say, well, this is a policy. Then you tell someone else, well, the policy says this is A, B, C, or D. And that's not necessarily true because you have not read the policy.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes people will say it's policy when that policy doesn't exist. It's easier to say it's policy than it is to say this is my decision. But another key factor with policies is so that the superintendent knows how to deal with situations, and so that principals know how to deal with certain situations, because it's very clear and very consistent in the handling. I know the superintendents don't like vague policy, because if it's vague, they're going to figure out how to do it, and they know that they're going to be in trouble with some board member somewhere along the way. So if you have clear policies, you know what to do. And if a board member doesn't like it, this is what the policy says. This is what I'm doing. So it gives you a little, it gives you some direction, but it also gives the reasoning for those. Because superintendents are, and principals, any administrator, they handle tough decisions every single day. It's just part of their work. And so you need to equip them with the tools that they need so that the consistency throughout the district is what you have. You don't want people being treated unfairly, but you want them to be consistent. Any questions before we go? All right. Now, what's the difference between policy and procedure? Policy is the what, and we're going to put it back in those terms that we talked about with governance and management, and the procedure is how. I'm going to give you an example that happened in one of the districts where they put procedures in with their policies, and the football coaches kind of came together, and that particular district provided a pair of football pants. I think they're just called pants, but anyway, for the football players to wear on bottoms. And they realized that, their games were coming close back to back, and they wanted a second pair of pants. So they went to their achievement people, their athletics people. They were fine. Their money was in the budget. Everything was fine. And then they realized there was a policy in place. And the policy said 1 pair of football pants. So in order to change that policy, they had to go through the first reading and the second reading and the 28 days in between and change the policy. And by then, the football season was almost over. A procedure is a thing that says how. The policy could say you provide the uniforms for the football team. The procedures would say we do 1 pair, 2 pairs, you know, whatever. And if they find they need something, it's easier to change the procedures to make them fit, because constantly things are changing. Now, they didn't go back and say, we're not going to provide any, because the policy says you will provide uniforms. The procedures will say, what are the uniforms that you're supposed to be providing? The policy will say you have X number of dollars to spend. The procedure will decide whether that second pair of pants going to be purchased. Do they have the money to do so? Yes? Okay, great. No, they don't have the money, and the policy says they have to have it. No, they don't get it. You know, so they created a problem for themselves by having a procedure which really they wrote as a policy instead. So you want to make sure your procedures are your procedures, and you can, as a board, you can ask for the policies. Every department has procedures of some sort, just as you have your working operation manual or your protocols. Those are your procedures. You don't have to come and have 2 readings and everything to change your procedures. Every department has procedures of some sort that they follow. And you can ask to see those occasionally. What we suggest is if there are changes in the procedures, just to notify the superintendent, obviously will know, but notify the board if it's something that is of consequence. And the superintendent can determine whether it's of consequence. I don't think the superintendent would say whether they have 1 pair of pants or 2 pair of pants is of consequence, but they might let you know just so that if parents are asking, you know that this is what the practice is going to be. Okay, so now we're going to talk about policy development and what are the best ways of developing policy. One of the board members that was with the National School Boards Association, and we got this a while ago, it's a process during which a school board brings forth its own ideas or receives ideas from professional staff, and I would add community, then checks them, weighs them, gets agreement on them, and finally puts them in writing for the community and all to see. So those are kind of the steps that he saw in it. And each one of those steps is very important. And I'm going to show you how we bring them all in. It used to be a policy development process, but now we've changed it to cycle because it is constantly going on. The policy, the steps for policies. It's a continuous process. Now the first step is to recognize the need. Where would you find it? Sometimes school board members bring it forward. All of these people and all of these organizations might bring a situation or a suggestion or bring forth an idea that policy might be made. Court decisions, you're going to have policies that go with that. The laws, you're going to have policies. Employees may come forward with, here we're having an issue and we need some clarification. That clarification might require a procedure. It also might require a policy. You know, federal laws, we've already talked about the hierarchy, but advisory committees, when you form an advisory committee to look into something, they may come back with some recommendations and things that they would like to see. So the idea or the subject comes forward. Then you approach it. Are you being reactive or proactive? Are you identifying things that are going to help move your strategic plan forward? Are you identifying things that will keep your students more safe? Are you identifying things that that are necessary for budgetary purposes? You know, all of the different areas that you have. So are you being proactive in putting those things in place with recommendations from the superintendent, responses to the reports that those advisory committees may be bringing forward? Or are you being reactive? When you are in the reactive stage, there's something that's come forward and now you want to make a policy. Sometimes that's a good thing because something has come forward. There's been a crisis of some sort and now you know we have to put policy in place. More often than not, when you're doing reactive policy, that's where you get into creating policy for certain situations that might be just a handful as opposed to a need for a district-wide. So be careful and ask yourself right in the very beginning, is this a reactive policy or is this a proactive policy? If it's reactive, is it in compliance with a court decision? Because that's a situation that was brought forward, not something you necessarily decided was something that you wanted. Is it something that the legislature, we will have a lot of reactive policy that we put in place after legislative session when the laws and the rules come down from DOE. Those are reactive. That's not a bad thing because it's a law that we have to do. But if we're reacting to something that happened, that's where you need to be careful. We talked about that a few minutes ago. Okay, so are you more reactive or proactive with your policy making? What would you say? Think of the policies that you have passed recently.
I mean, I think we've been a bit of both depending on the situation.
Okay.
Some of the situations we've had to be reactive just based on what's happening in the community and what's happening in our schools. And then there's been policies where we've been proactive. So I think it's just situational.
Okay. Could you give me an example of one of the reactive policies that you have made that you want to move forward?
This board didn't do it, but I can give an example.
Okay.
We were involved in a lawsuit, and I'm not going to get into the details, but one of the settlement agreements was that we would enact a policy involving athletics.
Okay.
And so that was part of the specific agreement to settle the litigation. The board adopted a policy to address that.
Right. So that was a reactive policy that was necessary. So don't hear that reactive policies are not necessary. There are some reactive policies that aren't necessary, but that one absolutely is. Can you think of a type of policy, whether you've done it or not, a type of policy that would be reactive that would not be a good thing for the board to address or enact? Okay, not one that you've done then. Give me one that somebody else somewhere in the world has done that might be reactive.
I mean, I was thinking maybe right now with the issue, the challenges that we're facing with books and some of that's occurring and some of the books that are coming from the state level on the book list, that could be a reactive policy, based on that.
Exactly. And how you handle it could be proactive or reactive. You could say, here's the list. We're just going to take them out of all the schools and we're going to be done with it. Or you can say, we're going to look at this list. We're going to see which ones are age appropriate. Are they in the right schools? So there are ways that you can.
I'm talking more about religious text that's coming from the state. I'm not talking, because we do have policies in place for the books as far as that. I'm talking about reactive more at the state level.
Oh,
so
okay.
Because we do have those systems in place already.
Okay. All right. And so what I would stress then is, with your policies and things come, do they fit into practices you already have? It may be reactive that now every district has to look at this. Even, and I'll give you an example of one that's in the legislature as to the adoption of books and some of the things that they're suggesting. Many districts already have those things in place where the community has an opportunity to speak to the recommendations before the board votes on it.
Yeah, I think we have it in place, but we just have to review it now.
Okay, yeah. And so you make sure, does this have everything that this needs? And are you following it?
Exactly.
That's the other piece. That's the other piece. The proactive ones are, what are you going to be doing in order to improve student achievement in each school? What are you going to be doing to make sure that the opportunity gap is being closed? What are we doing about the education gap? Those are policies that are proactive instead of reactive. So you need to just ask yourself first, which is it? Do we already have something in place that addresses it, and how do we move forward?
Some years ago, many years ago, when Title IX came in, I think Hillsborough County was kind of proactive on that. when we played basketball on certain nights and the boys had to play on another night, they had a flip-flop because they said it wasn't equal for boys and girls because the boys got the prime nights. But Hillsborough County reversed it. So we had opportunity to be proactive on
There
that.
you go. Perfect example. Perfect example. All right. So after the topic has been brought forward, the second step is to discuss the need. Is it something that we need to put in place? Just because it comes forward doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a policy. And here are some of the reasons why you would want to look at it. You know, is the need there because this topic is receiving constant attention? Is there a need because you want to clear up some ambiguity in one of your policies? Again, is it needed because of the state mandates or the State Board of Education? Absolutely. Is it an individual interest of the board members or of students? I know sometimes we meet with students. We have in Pinellas a group called Students' Rights and Responsibilities, representatives from all the high schools. I know you have something that is similar, but they bring forward things that they see that are happening in the school on a regular basis. And sometimes you go, you know what? That is something we need to address. And so you would move forward. So the first step is to have the topic brought forward. The second one is decide, do we need it? Is there a better way of handling it? Is this something that would go into a procedure instead? Is this something that would be addressed because it's an individual situation or at an individual school? Or do we need it as a policy? So we ask our questions. Does the board agree to what the problem or the issue even is? Sometimes we write policy and we really don't know what we're trying to accomplish. And so we end up with policies that are pages long that talk about all different kinds of things, but we really don't know what we're trying to solve. So the very first thing you have to do, all right, I think we need this policy. All right, what are we trying to accomplish with this policy? If you can't answer that question, then you need to step back and say maybe the policy isn't what we're looking for. All board members should know exactly what the problem is, or exactly what the issue is, or exactly what they're trying to say in that policy. Then, is it needed? What are you trying to accomplish? And is this policy language mandatory? And is it repetitive? There are things that will come to us where this is the wording that we must use. Okay? You can still have some discussion around it. Is this really necessary? What is it that this is really saying? What is this really accomplishing? But if you're bringing forward things and you're going to discuss a policy that is being created, I'll say from the ground floor, what is it you're trying to accomplish? And then how are you going to accomplish it? Okay? So I'd like you to put a little star by those, and you ask yourself those questions every time a policy comes forward. And then you might want to ask each other every once in a while, what is it that you're trying to do? So as you're having the discussion about the policy, ask, is this what we're trying to do, and what is it? All right? So then you assemble all of the facts and the materials. Now, do we have board members going out and doing this? No. This is where staff steps in. They may have brought the ideas forward. They may be sharing with you what the issue is that needs to be addressed in policy, but they definitely step in here. And they look at what's the financial aspect, what are the accountability measures, are there any legal options that will move into this? Do we already have district policies that are in place? What are the pros and cons of this policy? And staff gathers all that information, and they will bring it to you. But they're the ones that go out and collect this. They're also the ones that will research all of these areas. Again, what's the legal impact and all of the things I just mentioned. And then they'll bring it forward. And oftentimes they will bring it in the form of a policy. Then you ask, is this policy saying what we want it to say? And it's your responsibility then to look at the documentation that they bring. If they're bringing forward the financial impact, if they're bringing forward the data that goes along with it, that's what you look at, that's what you discuss. And have you ever tried to be in a group where you have 7 people writing policy or 8 people writing policy? Have you ever tried to write a letter with 3 people? You get into wordsmithing rather than looking at the content. And so that's why we don't have board members writing policy. We are also at a level that is up here with the governance. We're not the ones that are down looking at how do we implement this? How is it going to be able to move forward? Staff is the one that is what we're saying, something that we can follow through and implement. And they will bring the suggestions to you. Now, that's not saying that you can't come up with a topic and say, I really believe that we need a policy on XYZ. Here are the reasons. This is what it will solve, or this is what it will perpetuate. This would be what it eliminates. You know, any of those questions about, the statements with policy. And then you say, okay, and ask staff to make the recommendations and move forward. What we end up with sometimes when we as board members are writing it is we create some situations that are very, very difficult to implement. They are very difficult to make sure that there's consistency, or we create some unintended consequences. This sounded like a really good thing over here, but man, did it create problems over here. And then we didn't want the problems over here. We didn't need the problems over here. You know, so staff has an idea as to what's going on. However, you need to really focus in on what are the unintended consequences of this. And I'll give you an example. There was a school district that was having problems trying to get substitutes. So they raised the cost of what they were going to pay substitutes. Great idea. We'd get more substitutes in. They'll be able to move forward. They realized afterward that a substitute could work for 3 days and make as much money as some of their support personnel were for 5 days. That was not something they thought about or realized the unintended consequences. So then support staff was making a decision. Do I now start substituting? Do I have the credentials to substitute or whatever? But they created that situation, and it was not anything that they were trying to do. Raising the pay for substitutes, that was a good idea until they realized what the unintended consequences were. So you have to ask that. Also be very, very careful in policy with the words will and shall. Because if you put those in, that means it's going to be done. And you will have to do it. So a shall is you have to. It is the district's duty, you have to. You will, that means you have to. So replace those words every time you see it with you have to. And you might need the word shall, but you also may need the word may. That gives you a little bit of flexibility, and it gives you the opportunity to say, all right, if you say this shall be done in 10 days, and it takes you 11, you have violated your policy. You know, it may be done in 10 days, or it will be done as soon as possible, you know, within a particular period. So when you see those words, you know, your radar should go up and say, all right, now, is this something we have to do? Or is this something that we're creating a problem for ourselves? Okay? And as laws come in, I guess I'm kind of going up this backwards. I just realized I'm on the second one, and I'm just talking. When things come to us, whether it's from the federal government, whether it's from the state government, whether it's from either one of the departments of education, are we adding more into this policy than is necessary? Or are we accomplishing what the task is? Sometimes when we don't know exactly what we're trying to solve or exactly what the issue is, we add other things on, and before you know it, we have a policy that is covering 3 or 4 different things, when all you needed was a policy to do this one thing. So be careful about doing that. Okay? The task of gathering the facts and the information is the responsibility of the superintendent and staff. That is very important. That's why it's on a slide all by itself. Now, it is also your responsibility to ask them about it. Does this accomplish? You can even ask them, what is it that we're trying to address in this particular policy? And then you can decide whether it does. There are questions that you can ask about the materials that they bring, the data that they bring. You can even change wording if you need to. But don't get into the business of writing policy yourself as an individual board member. Okay, the fourth step is to discuss and decide the substance of the policy, which we've sort of addressed round through a lot of the conversation. But this is where you really get into it. You're the one who's looking through the information. You're the one who's going to determine, is the policy helping you achieve your vision? Is it helping you move your strategic direction forward? What are the, who is this addressing, and does it do it? Are you making sure that this is something that can be implemented district-wide? Is this a trend, or is it really an issue? Sometimes we are addressing or wanting to make policy for trends. Trends will come, trends will go, trends can be dealt with at the time. When I was on the board, right before I came on the board, one of the biggest things was what color hair the kids had to have. Could they dye their hair purple? Could they dye it blue? Is that a big issue right now? No. It was a trend. So some of the questions should have been, is this impacting student achievement? Is the distraction so great that teachers are unable to teach and children are unable to learn? Those are some of the things. Now, back then it was pretty shocking. I get it. But, let's ask ourselves some of this. Agree on the, does the board agree on the position? Because if not, then maybe the policy needs to go back. Having a policy go forward with a 4-3 may not be the best policy. You may need to go back and work on it a little bit more. And more times than not, if you find out what are we trying to address, you can get past the conflict as to why someone wouldn't be able to support a policy that comes forward. But if you have a 4-3 policy in the district, how do you think that's received by staff and community?
I see it perceived we're not all on the same tune of music.
Yeah. So do they have to follow that policy?
Yes, because we put it in.
Yeah.
4-3.
Exactly. They do. But do you think they're going to want to follow it wholeheartedly? Do you think they're going to believe they have to follow it? We know they have to follow policy, but do they know they have to? Member Vaughn, you had a question or a statement?
I do, thank you. I can understand where, sometimes it's not the best practice, and we would hope that we would all be on board, but just like democracy, and when we make decisions on the board level, it's going to be the majority over. That's how we make decisions. So that's how democracy works. So, why we would be hopeful that everybody would see how it would align with our strategic plan and enhance student success. Sometimes that's just how democracy works. So.
Well, I understand that, yes. And sometimes things come down, and I'll use the legislature again, will come down and we don't agree with the basics of it, and so it might not be a 7-0. But if it's a policy that you're creating and you have a 4-3, it might be something you want to go back and look at and see, is it really solving the problem? Is it really doing what this policy is intended to do, is what I'm saying. Not that every policy has to go through 7-0. Do you see what the difference with what I'm saying and how we agree? Okay. Okay. All righty. Again, policy's too important to be doing late at night or with a crowded room. Do it when you're clear-headed and you can think and you can have some discussion that is meaningful. All right. The fifth step is the first draft. That's the draft policy that comes forward. It is now the board's to look at, and you are now looking at, is it consistent with the laws? Is it consistent with other policies? Does it support the strategic plan? And you keep hearing me say strategic plan, strategic plan. That's what we are moving forward. That's how your students are achieving. Policies are supposed to be written to help students achieve. So that strategic plan is a huge part of it. It's not something that you put on the shelf. It's something you should be reviewing every day, and everything that you do should be focusing on that. So policy needs to focus on that as well. Is it good educational practice? You can ask those questions. And then what are the costs? That should be part of what you're seeing when you get a draft policy. The budget's something that underwrites the strategic plan, and there are a lot of things that we would want to do, and there are a lot of wonderful things, but you can only spend $1 once. So are you spending it in the appropriate way? The draft policy then also needs to be discussed as with the other things that we're talking about. Does it adequately cover the situation? Is it reasonable? Again, is it limited to a single topic? When you start adding more and more into one policy, yeah, it creates some issues. Now, I'm going to give an example of how students are assigned to schools. That's not just one little sentence. There is a process that is followed in order to do that. And that is something that you have to be consistent with. And so a big part of that will be in policy. There'll also be some procedures over here. But a policy can be more than 2 paragraphs long. It may be 3 or 4 pages that address it. But what are you trying to do? You're trying to determine and let people know how students are assigned to schools. What are their options? How do they go about making sure I'm new to the district? How do I make sure I'm getting my child into any school, let alone the appropriate school, so they could go look at policies to do that? So it may have several subsections, but it's still one topic. How do you assign students to schools? And then again, can it be administered? Is it practical? We can come up with some wonderful policies that we can't accomplish and that you can't administer and you can't even implement. But are you writing policy that is impossible for school staff to follow? Are the principals going to be able to follow it? Are the teachers going to be able to follow this? Or are you writing something that can be implemented, it can be administered, and it can be taken care of in a consistent way? All right. I have a draft policy, or questionnaire, actually. And I'm going to, they're not doing that one. We don't have enough time. Okay. We'll wait for that. All right, I'm going to give you a paper right now that I want you to look at it. This is a self-evaluation of what you're doing. And I want you to think about how effective your policies are when you're looking through this. And there's a rating system, and it's up at the top, 1 through 5. 1 is never, okay? Never doesn't mean 100% of the time. You can think of that one time that it happens. So we say 99% of the time equals never. Okay, sometimes is 2. Is it done but not consistently? Most of the time. Or is it always done without question? And again, always means about 99% of the time. And there are questions on here that I want you to ask, and just do the top part where it says personal action plan. Don't worry about that part yet. But I want you to answer and rate these with the policies that you have done as a board, ones that you have looked at. And think about the ones you've done recently, and see if you can answer these questions. We'll talk about them in a minute. Talk to you one too. Just think of some of them that you have done recently. There you go. And have they received the ones that are online? Are they still online? Okay, well, if you know the ones that you're in the process of doing, look at these. Just look at the questions. I think you can do some of them without having a specific policy in mind, but it addresses your process as well. And just for the audience, I will read them out. The first one, and we'll go over them and get your ratings in a little bit. The first one is a consistent process used to examine proposed policy? And I'm putting them in the way of, I know yours are statements, I'm putting them in questions right now. An academic statement accompanies each policy proposal. Do you have an academic statement that goes with it? What is it doing? The school board takes sufficient time to study each policy issue. So do you do that? Does the public always included in the policy process? And that may be with your first readings, your second readings, the opportunity to speak. Do you have committee members that sit on some of the committees that create policy? Does the school board review and amend current policies in a well thought out and timely fashion? The board members support all district policies, and the school board has developed a method to identify the need for new policy. So I'll give you a couple minutes to fill that out.
So I just wanted to say that for those of us who are sitting here, we've only gone through one policy cycle. And I think only a few policy cycles made it out. So to kind of do this self-evaluation off that one cycle is a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
And maybe
I had an idea. Maybe, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about since we've been on the board is the mascots with a couple of the schools. I think that's something that we could really use because we're in the process of looking at that. And we've had a policy and we're looking at what that policy looks like. I think this would be a great example to use that if we're going through the steps.
Okay.
Don't you agree, Ms. Rio-Tirado? Don't you think that would be a great one to use?
Yeah, I think the answer needs to be yes.
and sort of
When a question is asked that way, the answer is yes.
instead of trying to tie to a specific policy, maybe it would be helpful if we just spend a minute talking about Kristen Davis and I sort of are the people that work the policies with the board.
Okay.
And typically, I would say on most of these, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
We had before this board was impaneled as a board, we had set up policy cycles that were going to be really quarterly. And then COVID happened, and so that just didn't happen.
Right.
But the goal was to do it on a regular basis. In the past, when I first became the school board attorney, the first hearing we had, there were 99 policies that Neola brought forward for the board to adopt at one time, 99.
Yikes.
And so we set about trying to come up with a better process. So the way it works in Hillsborough, after every legislative session, Ms. Davis, Mr. Gibson, and I sit down and we identify which state laws require new policies. For a policy cycle, staff has the opportunity to initiate policies and board members have the opportunity to initiate policies. If a board member initiates it, it's vetted through the appropriate staff and the appropriate department. The board is given all the policies to look at. We have a workshop where the public is invited to attend, and here we thrash it out. If there seems to be consensus for going forward with the policy, we advertise it and take it to the public hearing, and then of course the public is involved that way. That's generally how it works. I mean, the things that we could probably tighten up are the impact statement. I don't know that has been done on a consistent or regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I think the rest of these are things that in Hillsborough, at least, the board has done to the point that Ms. Vaughn just made. Because of COVID and because of other more pressing needs over the last year and a half,
Right.
the policy cycle has not been as fluid, or not as fluid, as standardized as the intent was. And I think this is helpful to sort of bring us back that we really do need to have a consistent process, have a calendar at the beginning of the year, and we know that this is when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would say for the most part that this is this is aspirational and for the most part is met, but some of the things can be
Right.
tightened up.
Yeah, okay, yep. And that's pretty much what this is intended to do. Let's look at them and see what needs to be. I mean, when we talk about reactive policy, COVID, there were reactive policy after reactive after reactive. We had no idea where it was going and what was happening, so our policies were reactive. Were they necessary? Absolutely. Did they follow this whole thing? Probably not, because they didn't have time to go through all of it. But look at this as Mr. Porter was saying, are there areas with this that need to be tightened up a bit? Okay? And,
Most, and I can say this, in most of the year we've been in office, we've been reactive. I mean, it's just something right after another. We're reacting to it. So it's a lot of these policies we could accommodate.
right. But do you want to get into that habit? You know, I understand a lot of them have been. There have been a lot of reactive policies that we've had to put in place. Is that the practice that we want to continue, or do we want to get back on track? And this would help us get back on track as we're moving forward. Member Vaughn.
Thank you. I think that we've had a lot of discussion that's been reactive, but as far as actually moving policy, we haven't had from our last policy cycle a lot of reactive policies. But I do think this is a great tool, and I'm wondering if we can get like if you already gave us this, or if we can get a soft copy of this. And when we're going through our policy cycle, this could be one of the documents that, you know, we give out at that time, and we're able to kind of reflect on that instead of trying to save it for that. If we can have this kind of added to that would be great.
I think Ms. Davis and I can provide, we can scan that and provide it
Yeah.
to you, I think.
Thank you.
I'll leave a hard copy, but then you also have an electronic copy of this as well, so that it can be brought forward.
And I was going to say, to me, this just looks like best practices. And I think, I think overall the board, I don't know, in the past has probably been proactive, but I think just due to the situation in the last year and a half, we've had to be reactive. But I think as we move forward and we're looking at policies, I think that being proactive when we're talking about challenges, and like you said, I think sometimes we really need to get, a board member might have an idea, but once they go out to the schools and communicate with principals and teachers and talk to the superintendent and the cabinet, then sometimes we realize that it might, you might have a great idea, but it just is not going to work consistently. And I think that's where we have to just continue to make sure that we're not being reactive, because sometimes ideas change with times, so I think that's really important.
And sometimes you may also find that it is being addressed, but it's being addressed this way. So a policy is not necessary. It may be in procedures. Now, having heard what's going on, I'm going to just give you this next one as a resource as well. It was going to be a policy development activity that we did together, and it's just 4 questions that you need to ask yourself as you're going through that. And I'm going to hand you this, and then we can talk about it. Oh, and I probably need one. I gave them all away. Okay, so as you're looking at policy, you may also want a copy of this. I need a copy. That's kind of how the morning's gone. Okay. You want these for them also? Here you go. Jim, you can pass these out at the same time for them if
Yes,
they
ma'am.
like. There you go. Okay, so what these are doing is they're kind of giving you some questions that you should ask yourself as you're going through policy. What are the sources and the need for this policy? And generate a list of stakeholders that it would impact. Just as you're looking at policies, which ones does it hit, any or all of these? Sometimes, who is the stakeholder? The stakeholder may be the students. The stakeholder may be staff, maybe your support staff only, and not your teaching staff. How high does it rank in terms of policy needs? If it's not ranking real high, do we really need it? And then why? Why is this important, or why is this maybe not important for us to have? Every policy that comes before you does not need to be policy. You need to ask yourself, is this a policy that we need in place? Is this going to move our strategic plan forward? Is this going to help the district function better? Is this going to clarify something that is happening within our district or within our community that is bubbling up and coming to the schools as well? You know, so just because somebody has an idea for a policy doesn't mean it's a policy that's needed. It may just be a discussion that has to happen, and you say, you know, now that we're aware of it, let's try to handle this situation this way. And it may be just addressing the situation as opposed to a policy. But if it does rank high and it comes up, and yes, we need a policy, what else are we looking at? Some of the things you need to ask yourself is, who is it going to impact? A policy sometimes will impact different groups within the school district or within the community as well. And is it saying what it needs to for those staff, for those stakeholders? Okay, so rather than going through this activity together, this is another resource that you can say, you know, what data and information is needed? Did you get all of the information that you needed, or is there more? Is there something else that will help you make a better decision? And what are some of the determining factors for continuing the process of writing a school district policy on this topic? Did this cover it? Did it not? What else has to be in here? Okay, so those are just some additional, we'll use that as a resource as well as you're going through it, seeing as you haven't gone through it yet. Okay, so the sixth step is now you have looked at it, you have read it, you have had staff bring things forward, you've looked at all of the information, it's ready to go now to an agenda. Okay, and at that, some people call it first reading, second reading, whatever. The first one is really identifying whether or not you're going to advertise that you're going to be talking about this policy. And this is where the attorney really keeps you on track with this. So we're going to just kind of go through the steps very, very quickly, but they'll make sure that you have the policy in time and it can go to the newspaper or wherever you advertise your policies and it gets there in time and all of those kind of details. You know, Mr. Porter will help you stay on track with that. But you have your first reading, or you have the opportunity that comes before you to advertise this policy, and you'll have it written, you'll know what it is, and you vote yes, we're going to advertise it, or no, we're not. And no, we're not, then it ends or goes back to be worked on a little bit more. So you have that 28 days minimum later, you will have the second reading, or some people will call it a public hearing on the policy. Okay, so you have a public hearing on the policy. That's when staff that's when the public or staff they're able to come and speak to you on this policy, saying, yes, I support the policy. No, I don't support the policy. This is a good policy. However, we're missing this step. And that's why we listen, because they may bring something forward that we didn't think about. Okay? And so then that's when you would have the opportunity. So what you have to do with the advertising and the adopting those, you have to make sure that the public gets it in the appropriate amount of time, and that you do provide those opportunities. I talked about having 28 days in between. If for some reason you have a policy and we come to the 28 days and you have your public hearing and it is not in a place where you feel as though you can move it forward, or something has happened during that 28-day period that it kind of got put on the back burner, you can still go back, work it, and bring it back in. However, if it goes past 90 days, you start the process all over again with the advertising and the public hearing. And again, that's why you have an attorney, to keep you on track with those kinds of things. Okay? So you have your first reading, then you have input, you can have board discussion in between, you can revise it if necessary during that 28-day period. When you have the first reading, or when you're voting on whether or not you're going to advertise it, people can come at that point and speak to the policy. you may find there, you know what, that's a good thing. We want to add that in. So that can be some of the revisions and things that would happen before it comes to you for a second reading on the 28 days. Member Vaughn, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to get some clarification on that. So let's say we have a policy that we've proposed, we've advertised it, we change the language. Isn't that a contradiction? It would change a few of the languages. Do we have to re-advertise the exact, so we don't have to?
It really depends
But, yeah.
on this, whether it's a substantive change or not, and that's sort of we look at that, and if it's something that's going to really overhaul the policy, we would bring it back to the next policy cycle. If it's wordsmithing or Scrivener's error type things, then it's probably okay. But there's no black or white answer on that. It really depends on the kind of changes you're making, and we advertise it in such a way that allows for maximum flexibility for the board to make those changes if appropriate.
So can I recap then? So let's say we get it out of the policy cycle. It comes before the board. We advertise it. We do some minor tweaks. Then we have up to 90 days once we've advertised it to vote on it with those minor tweaks.
Well, legally, yeah, but that's not the way we do it in
Right.
Hillsborough. So
That's
so
right.
for whatever reason, if we're not going to take it forward at that policy cycle, we would re-advertise it whether it was 90 days or not, because we want to be transparent, we want to be clear. So I think Ms. Cook is identifying what the parameters of the law are, but in Hillsborough, if we don't vote on it on that public hearing, we'll re-advertise it or re-notice it, so everyone's on the same page with that.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep. So if it is a substantive change, you start all over. If it is minimal, you can go through with it. And if at the second reading, and I'm clarifying, if at the second reading it still is not saying what you want it to say, you don't go forward with it. Okay? So, if I asked you to locate a policy that governs how policies will be adopted in your school district, would you be able to find it, and where would you look?
Yes, we'd be.
Okay,
It's online on our website under our bylaws, all of our policies.
okay. So in that, it tells you how you will adopt a policy.
Oh, okay. You're saying the procedure, where is it outlined?
Huh?
That's a good question.
Okay. You need to familiarize yourself with your policies a little bit, is what yeah. Right. But if you are getting ready to adopt a policy, look in there and see if it talks about it. If you don't know where it is, you have an attorney that you can call and say, what is it that we have and where would I find it? But oftentimes there'll be a section on adoption of rules. Rules and policy are the same thing, different verbiage. Okay? Yes.
So, I mean, we have bylaws that govern the adoption of the policies, but do you mean, I'm misunderstanding whether you mean like something specific to Hillsborough about our policy cycle, because I think that's a little bit different than per state statute or the way the other counties do it.
We have embedded in our policies, and it's very antiquated. The language is not, it says we look at policies every 2 years. It's in our adopted policy manual, but we do it much more often than every 2 years. So her question is, where is it found? It's found in our policy manual about when the board reviews it and how they review it. So that's in there, but again, it's very old language, and it's not really consistent with what the board does now.
And it's not like this where it says it has a 2-day reading or will be advertised.
That's governed
That's
by
what I'm
law.
wondering if
That's
you're
law.
asking is
That's
if
law.
it's, okay.
And the statute is probably referenced in that policy.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a good question to ask, because it also, if you follow this, and we have it in there, it's providing some structure for how we do things, and if it's embedded in policy, we're supposed to be following it. Again, this language is just very old, and we're doing it more frequently. But as part of Mr. McCauley's overview, those are the kind of things we would identify that need changed. And there are a lot of things in the policies. I mean, to your point, if it was printed out, it would be huge. And so going through it and finding things that are not really relevant anymore it takes time.
I was going to suggest maybe that we can take that section and then you can send it to all the board members so we can really look at that. Because I know when I first came on, I had all the policies. I mean, it's a very large notebook that I have. But, if we could look at that, and so then maybe we can see how that kind of correlates with what we're doing, that would be great.
Yeah, and I would like to just expand it so it's as clear as possible. I mean, I know where to reference our policies, and I look at our policies quite often. But to your point, even if we're just loosely referencing state statutes, the more people understand how our policy cycle works and what that looks like and where they can engage, and even being able to advocate for policies or reach out to board members, as much clarification as we can give it, so people really understand how they can impact policy, I think would be great. And maybe that's something we want to look at our next policy cycle.
Sure.
Thank you.
And that may be something that you want to send at that same time, because I know we get a lot of things. And if you get it now, will you be able to put your hands on it when it's time to do the policies? So if it all came at the same time, it might be very helpful for people to be able to look at it and go through. One of the questions that I want you to also write down on a piece of paper that we need to is, who does this impact? If we talk about, and I know you've had some conversation about it, so we have a lot of districts with transportation and trying to get bus drivers and that type of thing. There's been conversation all over the state about changing some start times. Okay, well, if you're changing start times, for example, and you want to move, I don't know, middle school, and you want to move it a half hour later, who is that going to impact? You ask yourself that question with each policy. So give me some examples of who that would impact.
Number one, it's going to impact
Okay, it's going to impact the students,
parents,
parents, bus drivers,
Yeah.
administration,
Food nutrition.
food services, food nutrition,
teachers.
teachers. And when we say teachers, we talk about support staff too, and everybody that's in there.
Because somebody have to be on
Yeah,
duty or whatever.
yeah.
Before and after school care, extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, all that stuff.
Right. If you can identify who the policy impacts, you are less likely to do a policy that has unintended consequences, because you look at how is it going to impact food services. Is it doable? Yes. Okay. Is it doable for athletics? Yes. Is it doable for parents? How much of a strain is it going to be putting on the parents and the students? Does that strain, is it outweighed by the fact that now students are getting to school on time and not missing first period every day? Because the academics are equally as important, and that's what we're here, and that's what we're about. So you weigh things and you check it out from all perspectives, if you can identify who is it going to impact.
I'm sitting here thinking, because even though you make a decision sometime, it's going to affect somebody though. So we are looking at the people that affects the less,
The least
least
it's
amount.
the least. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
You're never going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Our job is to make sure that the children are getting the education they need, and we're making as many people as possible
Exactly.
supportive and pleased.
And I had a question. Overall, most of the districts, how often, as we look at our workshops, I know we already have a policy workshop in place. We have you, and then we have another policy. Are we looking at possibly twice a year, or what does that look like? Or is it just based on being I mean, some of these are reactive, but generally, not excluding the pandemic, how often do boards generally meet to change the policy or add the policy? I know we're constantly looking at the policy and reviewing it, but when do those changes actually occur? A couple times a year or every quarter? What does that look like in general?
That really varies from district to district.
Well, I figured,
I'm trying
but
not to give you
yeah.
an unpractical answer. But the best thing is it happens as often as it needs to be. Now, if you're looking at reviewing policy, you can set a schedule for that. You could say every month we want to hit one section. Every quarter we want to hit one section. It's probably nicer to staff to do it that way than to say, we're always going to do it. But there may be policies that will come before you on a more regular basis. I don't know what your schedule is here, but
A lot of this is aspirational, and it became difficult to accomplish because of COVID. But prior to COVID, we were doing policies twice a year. There was twice a year policy cycle. The board identified, previous boards had identified that wasn't really often enough. So Ms. Davis and I developed a schedule where the board would consider policies quarterly. It would be sort of a rolling thing throughout the year. That sort of was the aspirational goal that has not happened because of COVID. So I think realistically for the coming year, we're probably looking at 2 policy cycles. And then I think it's worthy of a board discussion if that's often enough or if you want to do it more frequently. The benefit of doing it more frequently is that you consider less policies at one time and you can really dive into them a little deeper. It's a burden on staff to have to do them 4 times a year, so that's something that has to be factored in as well. There are pros and cons to both ways of doing it, but I think for this year, the goal was to have at least 2 policy cycles and see how that looks and then get input from the board about how you want to proceed following that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Because that's handled from one extreme to the other. Some districts, anytime a policy comes forward, it comes forward. Then there are some that they discuss even at their organization meeting, and these are the ones that we've discussed at the remainder of the year, which I would not suggest because that's not part of your organization meeting, in my opinion. But but they choose to do it and it works for them, and that's okay. That's how they want to do it. So I'm thrilled that you're going to try it and then see, does it need to be tweaked? Does it need to be more often? That's wonderful. Member Vaughn.
All right, I see this. Any questions at the end? I should wait to the end, but I did have a question as we were discussing it.
That's okay.
I just want to clarify. I mean, it's best practices to have policy cycles and not to be reactive, but we aren't, by law or any way of our way of work, confined to only bringing a policy cycle change. I know other board members don't love it. We want to be able to have as much time to vet it, but if need be, we are able to bring a policy forward outside of the policy cycle. Is that correct?
The board agrees that you've done that. Actually, you've brought forward a policy out of the cycle, and yes, it's absolutely legal to do that. There's an expense associated with that because of the advertising costs and time involved, but yes, it's legal to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last step in the process is to make sure that once you have adopted it, how do you make sure everybody understands that we have a new policy and knows what that policy is? Now that things are online, it's a whole lot easier. But is there someone that makes sure that it is pushed out so that people know here is a new policy, here it is being added? You've advertised that it's going to happen, but now how do people know? When we had these big paper books and they would send you here's an update and you had to take this one in, take this page out, make this a new one, that was a little complicated and even board members didn't keep up with that, let alone how staff did it, nobody knows. But now you have online. So do you have a notification that this policy has been added to the policy manual? Is there a way? What is your process for letting the public and your staff know that we have a new policy that went into effect literally as soon as you voted on it? What's that process for you?
Thank you. Good morning. We have multiple steps of notification to the board, to our community members, and the superintendent works with cabinet to send out notifications. So, for example, if there's something in academic services, our deputy superintendent of instruction would inform his team as well as trickle down to principals, assistant principals, school sites. The same goes for our folks, whether it's a procurement. We always seem to like to bring our procurement policy each cycle. That's kind of a routine. So folks then in that department would work with perhaps like DPs, data processors at school sites. So there is a process like a procedural way of work that the cabinet does follow the direction of the superintendent. Yes, ma'am.
And that's something as a board that you should know. What is the process? So that you know that these policies that you're putting in place aren't just sitting on a shelf, that they're actually being implemented and people know about it. The worst way to find out that you violated about a policy is to find out you violated it. That's not what we want. We want people to know what the policies are because we're putting them there to help move things forward. Okay? So that is the 7th step in it, and the cycle starts all over again, and it's a continuous cycle, time after time after time. There is no break in it. You can't skip over steps and do your policy making effectively. So basically it's, you own the process, you also own the outcomes, but that doesn't mean you have to do every single step. And trust me, it is better to have staff doing the steps of writing the policy and bringing it forward. Okay? So we'll skip over that and go that you've already kind of done that one. So we'll go straight to questions. Are there any other questions that you have about it? Anything that I did not clarify, or questions that you have now about policy that, something struck you?
I have a question for our lawyer or for our chair. What is the date of the timeline? I know it was sent out, but can you remind me of the timeline of our next? Kristen, to
Yes.
save us of our next timeline of our.
Thank
next
you,
policy
Member
cycle.
Vaughn. The next policy workshop is scheduled for Tuesday, April 12th. So I don't know if there's, since we have the opportunity here with Ms. Cook, if there's, any perhaps best practice, since we're here, that as far as timeline, normally we send things out a good month or so in advance to let board members know it's a time to submit policy requests to the attorney and then staff as well. Do you have any, if you want to offer any guidance on that would be great.
No, not as far as a timeline for them submitting, because they may do that throughout the year, and you would be receiving them. But what I do know that is, depending on the size of the stack of policies that they have, they may need to get those policies a month in advance. The 1 week may not be enough. I know by, receiving it in the packet for your school board meeting, it would be a week. Sometimes they, if you have, 10 policies, that week might be okay. If you have 45 policies, you might want to give them an extra week. So sometimes, the extra time. One thing that has become a best practice is to have a workshop on the policies first. Not to do that from the dais, but to have them, and then and a lot of times you'll find out there that things need to be tweaked before they come. And that's where you really dive into what's this policy all about, what's it trying to do. That prevents you from having those discussions late at night at a board meeting.
Yeah, I had a question. So, I should have brought my policy book that we were working on. When you see some of these policies that are going to come up and that they're just never going to get, a majority. And you know that. I mean, are you not able to vet that beforehand through our attorney to look at that? Because I feel like sometimes policies come out and it's more of a political move or more of whatever the case is, and the policy is not going to pass, but it's just getting that attention. Are we able to vet that beforehand if we know that there's no reason to even bring that up? Or do we just bring it up because that's the right thing to do and then get the feedback from that?
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so. If it is a law that has come by and we have to put it in policy, the discussion should be, is this what the law is asking of us? We may not agree with it, but if it's a law, we need to put a policy in place. That's handled differently than what I think you're asking.
Well, I think if it's a law, we know we don't, it doesn't need to be a policy because we already know it's the law. I mean, I think if you're creating a policy for the law and we know the law supersedes everything, I mean, I just don't understand the purpose of doing that.
Okay. They will tell you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but there are a couple different layers here going on. One, sometimes a statute will direct the board to adopt a policy. So the statute will say, you need to adopt a policy. What was it, the Pledge of Allegiance? Or there was something that you must adopt a policy, so we have to adopt a policy. I think what you're asking is a little different, and there are different ways of handling that. So if a board member proposes a policy that is completely not allowed under the Florida law, then I will advise them of that. We will not bring it forward. Otherwise, the practice has been to take it to workshop and let the board members' colleagues disabuse that board member of taking it forward, and you collectively decide to do it. I think it would put an inappropriate burden on staff to tell you, Ms. Combs, I think you're being political on this, we're not going to bring it forward. So if the board wants to operate that way, we're going to have to establish some clear guidelines. But the way it works now is the board member introduces a policy, staff vets it. As long as it's legal, by that I mean it's not violating a statute or some other regulation, it's brought forward, and then you all decide as a group whether it's just being political or whether this should move forward or not. That's sort of the way we do it. And it's open to other suggestions, but I think it will be challenging to tell a board member, you can't bring this forward.
No, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just wonder about the best practices and does that really, is that great for the board and how that impacts our community, I guess. I look at that.
A lot of it is board members governing themselves. The other thing when we talk about timelines, we establish pretty firm timelines, deadlines for board members to submit policies, and that just, they're not adhered to. And so we end up getting policies very late and very last minute, and they're not vetted as well as possible. We're not going to tell you you can't do it. We're not going to tell a board member you can't bring a policy forward, but it does sort of put a hiccup, in the process because the vetting is not the same. So that goes to individual board discipline and understanding how you govern yourselves, and that, there's only so much we can do with that.
Yeah,
I was just curious. I mean, I don't have a problem either way. I just was wondering because sometimes I think it just brings more controversy that's unnecessary, but that's fine.
Well, and think about it this way. You have two people that you employ that are going to be giving you information, the superintendent or the attorney, about policy. Are they going to want to tell you, no, you can't bring your policy forward and get in crosshairs? No, especially when it might be something the board wants to move forward. So that's why they're saying that we're not going to tell you no unless it's illegal. But in the workshop that you have, when you're discussing policy, that's when you have that conversation. That's vetting the policies is part of that process. And that's where you would say, first of all, I don't believe we need this, or I believe this is for a single situation as opposed to something that the district needs. You would be able to have those conversations. If this is just political, what are we trying to accomplish with it being political, and is it necessary? Those kinds of questions. And that discussion is healthy. It's how you do that discussion, how you talk to each other, how you, do you get into substance of the policy itself, or are you broadening it out into other things and creating problems? The discussion is healthy. It's how you discuss that either creates a sideshow or shows that people are being very deliberative.
Kara, first of all, thank you for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You cleared up. Now, I know you've been on the board for a long period of time. What's the normal number of policies when they bring it to the board to review on workshops? Say if we want to review policies, what would you say from your years of experience?
Now, that's going to differ also, because in Pinellas we don't do chunks of policy. We bring forward policy as needed. So it's different. So throughout the year, how many would we have? I'll say 20. And then that's probably high.
Oh, okay.
And some years it's more than not, more than others. But a lot of our policy is implementing the law. And then what are we doing? The next question is, what are we doing to move our strategic plan forward? Now, I'm also talking about job descriptions, which are a little different. Those come to us on a regular basis, too. And I don't know how you handle that one, but, we don't do them in stacks. We review them as to which ones are going to be removed, but we don't do which ones are coming new in a stack. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm glad to be here, and I think you'll be happy to be let out a little bit early, unless you have another meeting afterwards. I'm sorry, but I appreciate it. If there is anything that we can do as FSBA or anything else, just you have my contact information, and I'm more than happy to help out any way I can. But I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because policy is very important, and your students deserve the best they can get.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for the information. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Oh,
Okay.
Ms. Vaughn?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for this. It wasn't originally what I had envisioned, but I think that there are a lot of helpful tools that are going to come from this, and I hope we adopt some of this into our policy cycle. And I agree that anything that can make it more clear, especially for new board members, is helpful. So I appreciate your time and coming to clarify this.
Well, is there something that you wanted that you didn't get?
No, I think I was just expecting something a little more specific to Hillsborough to understand our individual cycle, but I think we were able to ask those questions, and hopefully it'll all blend together, and we'll be able to go into the next cycle feeling very empowered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All righty. Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.